What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 181 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And don't forget to join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. Today we're going to be doing a little bit more work on our exterior of the Enterprise D. And I'm going to be trying just to wrap up the deflector dish, the changes I was making to it, and then we're going to work on adding in some hull lines. So without further ado, let's kick back, relax, and jump right into this. So what we're going to be doing is the bottom portion of this brown piece of the deflector dish, we're going to be shaving off a bottom layer of it. So we need to double check and make sure that the pattern that we have is the same. We're just going to be moving it up by one. And there's a specific reason that we're going to be doing this, because I would like to try to, well, let me rephrase. Basically, the bottom side of the deflector dish underneath the outer brown ring, it's not really blending in all that well together for me. And I was thinking like the easiest solution at this point would maybe to move the bottom side of the brown ring up by one, just to have a little bit more room to blend in where we're going to be blending. And literally all we're really going to be doing here is just trying to blend in the blue portion of the deflector dish in a little bit better than what we currently have. Because it doesn't look, incredibly bad the way it is. It looks pretty good, but I think it could look a little bit better. So that's kind of what we're going to be going for. We'll be working on this for a couple of minutes, and then we'll be switching over to getting some hull lines in. And we've got a couple on our saucer section, but we do not have any on the lower hull. And we're going to fix that today. And it's not going to be like some super drastic lines. These are going to be some very subtle hull lines that you're really not going to see too well on the ship unless you're zoomed in on it, which is honestly what I want. Because again, if you go back to the show on the Next Generation, any shot that they have of the Enterprise D, you really don't see those hull lines and Aztecing on the ship unless you get really close to it. So we're looking pretty good so far. We've about finished our adjustment of our brown rings, and now we're just cleaning up the underside of it so we can close that in. And we're going to let this work its magic. I don't know if you guys saw the new trailer for Star Trek Picard, but they're really going all out for the last season. I don't know about you guys. I still have my doubts on how the season is going to go, because just for me personally, season 1 and 2 were kind of disappointing. I think that the potential is there because they're finally doing what I wanted them to do from the get-go. They're bringing back the original cast. I have to be honest, though. With that all being said, I was surprised, and this is a spoiler, by the way, so if you don't want to hear any of these spoilers, you might want to mute for the next couple of minutes. So, spoiler warnings ahead, but I was not expecting Moriarty or Lore to come back. I was very surprised with that in the trailer. I was not expecting that. But also, I'm not going to lie, like, I actually checked myself immediately, because I was like, this could just be the biggest bait in history to get people to come back and watch it, and it might not end up being that good. Because it's one of the things I've talked about in the past. Like, they really didn't have to do all that groundbreaking rewriting. I mean, the template was already there with All Good Things. That, to me, that's what they should have adapted. I think that's what a lot of people had kind of expected the show to be, because when Picard first came out, the trailers that they were putting out, it seemed like that was the direction that they were going in, and then it just kind of veered off into this whole self-discovery thing of Picard, um, and adding in not necessarily bad new characters, but I think again, it would have been better if they had the TNG cast. So I don't know. We'll have to wait to see how that's all going to play out. But we did get an official blink and you miss it shot of the Enterprise F in the trailer, which they have officially made the Enterprise F from Star Trek Online canon. So that's pretty cool. We'll have to wait and see how Picard plays out. I'm going to watch it. I'll give it a chance. I'll watch every Star Trek. Also, the new trailer for the new season of Star Trek Discovery came out. Um, Man, this is going to sound like nothing but talking about negative stuff with Star Trek today. But Discovery was another one. I'm not going to lie. When I watched the trailer for Discovery, I felt like I was watching a version of the trailer for Star Trek Discovery Season 4. Um, so I don't know. I'm kind of at a crossroads with Star Trek Discovery because I feel like Season 4 is where the show should have started from the get-go, and I think they wouldn't have upset a lot of people changing up canon and the things that they made. But I don't know. There's something about Star Trek Discovery that it just doesn't feel like Star Trek. It feels like a lot of the decisions that they make, it's for politicized reasons or just to say, hey, look, we're doing this instead of doing it for the right reason, which is true diversity and inclusion, which is one of the reasons I always loved Star Trek growing up as a kid, because there was just, um, as far as a Federation standpoint goes, especially the Next Generation, maybe not with the original series because like they hated the Klingons in that show, but TNG for the most part, is really um, the purest form of diversity. It had everybody, and there's just something about Discovery without getting into it too much. I'm not feeling it. Every season that they put out just seems like they're going more and more in a weird direction. But with that being said, Star Trek Lower Decks has been absolutely fantastic. If you guys have not checked out that show, you seriously need to. It's without a doubt, in my opinion, the best Star Trek show that's on TV right now. Um, and don't get me wrong, I like Strange New Worlds, but a lot of now that I've had a chance to really think about it, a lot of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, they played it safe, and it was a lot of lazy writing. I really only thought the first and last episodes in season 1 were the best, and the rest were okay. But they tried, But Star Trek Lower Decks, I mean, you've really got to be a huge, huge fan of Star Trek just to even get half the jokes that they make on the show. And just recently they did an episode, again, spoilers, so you've been warned. They just did an episode on Deep Space Nine, and they brought back Quark and another character from the show, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was perfect. Everything from the music, the way that they showed Deep Space Nine for the first time. They're really just hitting it on all cylinders with that show. And I just wish that they would do that with the other Star Trek shows. Just give people what they want to see and stay true to it, and really give people what they want. I don't think that you're going to make any mistakes. I mean, Discovery at this point, I think, is more for like maybe not necessarily a broader audience, but a certain audience that doesn't currently or hasn't watched Star Trek in the past are trying to hit those people. And I say more power to them, but I wish that they would go back a little bit more to the classic Star Treks like TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. I mean, those were among the best. Anyway, let's get back into our build here. Now, as you can see, we've nicely blended in the underside of the dish. The only thing I'm not really happy about is the corners right here. That's something to be desired. There could be a few ways that we could fix that, but if I'm not mistaken, I think this is actually going to be the last time that we make any change to the deflector dish. If there's one more time after this, please don't hold it against me. It's been this whole build for the Enterprise D is just one big blur at this point. Um, but I'm pretty certain that this was the last time that I made changes to it. But I think that these changes work a lot better. This was one of the things that was kind of bugging me about the deflector dish. And even the top part before we blended it in more. Now it feels more like it's curving in like the dish should on the top and a little bit on the bottom. It feels a little bit more right to me. I think that looks pretty awesome actually. So we're in pretty good shape right now. I think at this point, now we're going to transition over into getting ready to do our hull lines. And the whole purpose of adding in these hull lines, we just, ever so slightly, we just want to give a little bit more detail into the ship. Like what we're doing right now, a great example of this is if you go back and you watch any of my videos that I did on the exterior of my Enterprise A. That ship has a ton of hull details on it, and it's not so subtle like we're going to do on the Enterprise D. You can see them a little bit more because of the different blocks that were the white concrete with the quartz uh, doesn't blend in that well. And it's not the regular quartz, it's a line quartz. I'm forgetting what the block is called off the tip of my head, but it makes a grid pattern when you use it. Using a combination of that and the white concrete on the Enterprise A, the hull lines stick out a lot more. But using this refined white quartz with the white concrete, it's going to be a much more of a subtle look, where as we zoom out, you're not going to see it. Now, I've already taken the liberty and started my hull lines on the left side of the ship. So everything that we're doing now, I've already completed on the left side. I'm just doing it on the right side. So you guys are probably going to do this in reverse. You're going to start on the right side. We're going to add in all our lines. And then we're going to go back and repeat that same step on the other side. And again, we just want to give this lower section just a little bit more than what it currently has. I thought about adding in some more hull lines for the saucer section of the ship, and I gotta be honest, I think that we added just enough detail on the saucer that it looks pretty good. I don't think that there's really much more that we need to do. Because again, if you look at the Enterprise D, one of the things I know, especially when you look at the ship from somewhat of a distance, less is more. There's a lot less detail going on with the ship. You have some of the pinstriping, but that's really it. It doesn't have that Aztecing so much unless you get really, really close to it. And that's kind of the direction I wanted to go in with this. Because the Aztecing would have been impossible to do in certain areas of the ship with the half slabs. And it just kind of is what it is. And it was crazy when I dawned on that idea. I was actually watching an episode of Next Generation, and I was looking at the ship, and it was somewhat of a distance. I was like, man, like you can't even see the Aztecing on it. And that's when it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, if you can't see it on the show from that distance, I think it's safe to say that we can get away with that on the build. Now, I mean, with that being said, if you do want to add the Aztecing in, I say go for it. That was just a decision made, or the thought process that I had on why I decided not to do it. Because if I never want to do something that isn't going to come out as well as I'd like it to. And because of the half slabs and the combination of the way I built my ship, it would have posed a big problem. And I was just like, well, I'll just stay away from that. But to each his own. If that's something you want to do, go for it. So right now, like we're literally going with our cut lines, adding in these hull lines here. And once we do a couple of these, you'll kind of get a really good indicator on how this is playing out. We've got our main line that we started with, that we started from the front end of the lower hull when we brought it all the way back. And we didn't do too many straight lines like that, just really the one. And now we're coming back again, and we're doing hull lines coming up, connecting that, going vertically with the cut line. Because the Enterprise D actually does have a ton of hull lines on the lower side, or on the lower hull. And in some places they're going at an angle. So forgive me for doing mine in a straight pattern. I just made the decision, like, well, I'm working with the blocks here, and I think it may not look as close to Canon, but I think for the purpose and where we're building this on Minecraft, working with the blocks, it makes more sense to have our hull lines be straight. Makes a lot more sense. Because this isn't going to feel like that much right now, but this is just, again, when you start adding in all these details, all these things are going to tie together and help just bring out the ship a little bit more. And you see, as we zoom out, and even as we're flying by, you really don't notice it. It's not until you stop and look at the ship that you see the detail. And I think that's part of the beauty in what we're doing. You want people to stop and look at your ship and to spot these things out. Some of those little minor details like that, I think that makes the ships look even better. And that's just my opinion on it, but I don't think it looks bad at all. I think it looks pretty freaking awesome. I do need to add one more hull line up here on this top cut line. Alright, that's looking pretty good. And now we're just going to run that up the length of the lower hull, front to back. Alright, we are rocking. We're almost done with this line. And then we're going to zoom out and see what else we need to do. This is again why it's such a good idea to go back and double check your work, because it's just, especially when you're working a ship this size, it can be easy to overlook a step that you might have missed. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Pausing that for a second. I mean, having those lines, I think it definitely adds a little bit more character to this section of the ship. Doesn't look bad at all. Yeah, the left side here didn't match up with the right side there, so I just want to make sure both those sides line up there and look good. Yeah, that's looking pretty fantastic. Doing pretty good on time. We shot through 18 minutes, still have just at 4 minutes. And then we'll be wrapping up episode 181. But I do like those hull lines. I really think that they help bring out more of the ship. Now, you might be wondering why I'm not using a darker color, and I think that pausing it here so you can compare the contrast between the two is a great example on why I didn't. You look at the middle here, the backbone. This is an area that we wanted to stick out. That's why we used that darker color. We use more of a subtle color as opposed to a darker one. It can really change the look of the ship. It can make it look darker. It can make it look more aggressive. And not only that, the Enterprise D, its hull lines themselves, not counting like the backbone pinstripe, but like just general hull lines, they're not very dark. So that's why we're kind of using the color that we're using here, is we want that subtlety to it. Because again, that's kind of playing into the Aztecing of the ship, that the more we zoom out, the less that we can see it, and it just happens to work out that way in Minecraft. There was a row here that I missed that I want to add. I think that'll look pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think originally before I was doing a vertical line on every cut line going towards the middle backbone, but I think this is where I made the decision that every single cut line I was going to do that and see how it looks. As we get more towards the tail end of it, it might not actually look that great. Well, I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it and see. But, you know, experimenting is never a bad thing. You know, again, with experimenting, you can totally stumble upon stuff that you never would think of, and that's just going to the thought process. Let's just try doing it a different way. And now we're getting at the point where it's like almost every other block there's a line. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go, but doesn't look too bad. We're not going to bring it all the way down on the very back. We'll skip that one, but then every other one we're going to go with a cut line until we get to that next row. That's that line that's going from the back end of the ship to the front. Looking pretty good so far. We got a couple more rows to do, and then we're going to check this out, see how it looks. All right, let's check that out. Doesn't look bad. Not quite sure how I feel about the very back of it here, but as we move forward, it looks really good. I mean, it doesn't really look that bad. I mean, I think the only part that I kind of have a problem with is when we get to like right to this point, because we're going to the half slabs here, so like it just doesn't feel like it transitions at this point. Like I feel like there should be like that white concrete line kind of outlining it now going to the back here. I don't know. But we're kind of strapped for space and we don't really have the space to do that. So I don't know. Not quite sure how I feel about that, but at the same time, I'm not sure how I'd go about fixing that. I don't think it looks terrible, though. I think it looks pretty decent. Decent enough that we can wrap this one up today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And new subscribers, don't forget to turn notifications on. Also, don't forget to hit that bell so you always get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you have any questions regarding today's episode, just dropping by to say hey. I definitely love hearing from everybody. You could drop a comment below or in the Discord. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Post your pictures in Discord. I want to see them.